What's going on, guys? Chuck here, and I've got a question for you. What happens when one man tries to watch all the horror films of the 1980s? Well, if you're Josh Spiegel, you create a very popular series on your YouTube channel called The 80s Project, and then you spin it off into a book, and that's exactly what this is right here. For those of you not familiar with Josh Spiegel, he runs the Horror Timelines channel on YouTube, and how I discovered him was through the 80s Project, and this is a great series if you've never heard of it, where he breaks down. He basically, like he says, he's watched all the horror films of the 1980s for every film he can get a hold of, and some very obscure, some well known, and he breaks them down chronologically, year by year. Now, obviously, not every episode is one full year. He's broken down into multiple parts, but it's a very fascinating series. He gives a lot of insight into it, and I highly recommend you check it out. But not to be outdone, he recently published basically the first volume of the series in book form, and of course, here it is, the 80s Project, and this is the horror of 1980. So here he's able to capture all the films of 1980, horror films of 1980, in this one volume of what I'm assuming, and I'm sure he is planning on being a at least 10 volume set. And this is a very fascinating book. The series itself is great. So again, go to Movie Timelines channel, check out this series. It's very fun. It's very enlightening, and he's got a good insight on these films and some really good, interesting opinions. The difference being with the book, he actually covers more films than he does in his episodes, and he actually goes a little more detailed than he can, because his average episode goes about maybe 30-40 minutes, give or take, depending on the amount of movies he's doing and the quality of them. But within the book, he's able to basically put more films in here. He's broken down a book per year and give, like I said, a lot more insight and detail. So this is Josh right here, if you can see him picture. And I believe he's self-published. It's not his first book, and he's got a lot of other accolades as well. But this is a great, beautiful, beautiful book, a nice hardbound, very well printed. I mean, once this will look beautiful on the shelf, especially when you get the whole volumes. It's kind of like, it might be the Time Life series or books, which were always beautiful on the shelf line. Those kind of things. I always love a bookshelf with good uniformity, and this promises to be that. Like I said, this is the first volume just recently published and was shipped out, this first batch, and I was able to get a hold of one of the this first run, and I'm very excited about this. Inside, and I should point out, so nice, these early ones, he even managed to sign this. So let's take a look. What we got here, basically, like I said, the book is the same as the series. He's breaking down movies chronologically as best he can. In the prologue, he kind of goes over what his rules, his established rules for what movies he picked. I mean, obviously, you can't get everything. Only so many films are available. Hard to get a hold of. Granted, in this day and age of streaming, things are a little more readily available if you can find them. But some things are even more harder to get a hold of. But he's managed to get whatever he could, and some things it basically up to his own choices. But he's put them in here chronologically by this year. With announce here the date, gives you the title, gives you a nice synopsis and basically thoughts on the film. And then at the end, he's going to tell you his rating, which is something he does in the series as well. But he obviously going to go a little more in depth in here. Then he's going to let you know its cultural significance, which is, I find this one always interesting, because it gives you an idea of how important that film was to pop culture as a whole, how memorable it was and how significant. And of course, a lot of these are probably forgotten, or they have minor snippets. And you have your big ones, like obviously a Friday the 13th or a Nightmare on Elm Street when you get there, or stuff like that. But then you have some of these obscure ones like what is this film we just talked about? Cardiac Arrest. Never heard of it. So it's cultural significance on here, a 1. There you go. And then after that, it'll let you know, should you watch it? And he gives you his honest opinion. Should you skip it? Should you check it out? Is it worth a viewing? But what's different with the book that he doesn't do in the YouTube series is he'll actually let you know, well, maybe he does it kind of, depending on the bigger films. But every one of these, there's a sequels and remakes, and he gives you a quick synopsis. But that's the book as a whole. And you've got some great imagery sprinkled throughout, which is, you got fog. But this is a very fun, very fascinating book, especially if you're a lover of horror of the 1980s, which I am. Most people, my age are. And, I've always loved digging into books that will, or any kind of thing will talk about the 80s and, maybe teach me something or show me something I did not know about, was not familiar with, or give me new insight into something maybe I did know about, but, put a little twist in it and make me think about it a little bit differently. Or even, in some of these cases, stuff I've never heard of, made me want to seek it out and check it out. So kudos to him for this. So, this is a very, very fun book. And again, this is 1980, so it's the beginning of what I can only assume it will be a 10-volume set in the future. You can go directly to the YouTube page, YouTube channel, Movie Timelines, and I believe you can order it from a link on there somewhere, or direct message him, I think. But all the information is there. You can actually, there's a video on there, and I'll put a link to it in the description, where he's basically talking about the publishing of the book and the release of it, and his idea for it, and and there's some other information on how to order it. Like I said, this is from the first printing he just gotten, so I was able to get that early. I think more on the way. And I, as far as the video series, which again I recommend you check that out as well. That is very highly entertaining, and he's got a spin-off series of the 80s Project, the Sci-Fi Edition, which talk about the science fiction films of the 1980s, and he has another spin-off, the 30s Project, talking horror films of the 1930s, which is another fascinating series. So I highly recommend you check out Horror Timelines. But not only that, but he's has videos basically trying to put film franchises in chronological order, and all their messy timelines they have, trying to put them in some kind of make sense of some of these things, which are very hard. And not just horror films, but he's done a great one, I think, on the X-Men franchise, if I remember, and that was just amazing. But it's a lot of fun, very insightful guy, and it's a very entertaining channel, and this book is very entertaining. I recommend, if you love the 80s, you love 80s horror, definitely check this out. The 80s Project, the horror of 1980s, and check out Movie Timelines, and check out the 80s Project on there. So that is it for this quick discussion about the 80s Project by author Josh Spiegler, and from again, a host of Movie Timeline. Movie Timeline. It'll be down there. I just my tongue's really low, but go check it out. And that is it for this. So until next time, this is Chuck saying I will see you on the other side.